One of the cleverest things Stephen did was, from the very beginning of the Smiths, even from that first night that I saw him at Manhattan Sound, second or third gig, he behaved like a big-time Charlie Potato, like a rock star. He behaved, even when he was nobody and just signed to a little rough trade, he was behaving like the big rock star. And I have to say that in terms of imagining yourself as something and making that come true by imagining it, he did a brilliant job. So I have no argument with that side, that he behaved like a complete stuck-up shit from the very beginning, because he almost willed himself to be this massive rock star and was from a very early stage. No, my objection to Stephen, and has always been, and he has bitter objections to me when he can be bothered, my objection began probably in '83 at a gig at the Palace Theatre in Manchester, and I saw a young Stuart James, who was one of Manchester's finest sound engineers and who was working with the Smiths, running along backstage just before they went on, carrying a large armful of carefully ironed white towels for Morrissey. And I can remember looking at that and thinking, for fuck's sake, Stuart James is a great engineer, he's worth more than that. And there's something sick about that, I don't like that. And from then onwards, I've known that about Stephen, and I have seen several dreadful examples of it. And that, again, it is the fault of the British Romantic poets that they created this idea that the art and the artist are the same thing. Before that, human beings were intelligent. They knew that art was one thing, the artist was the other. So the art can be fantastic, the artist can be a complete shit. We find that hard to come to terms with. It's utterly true. So the art is unquestionable and is wonderful, but Stephen's behaviour to human beings who work for him and who help him is unconscionable. And a great recent example would be Stephen was searching for his pension fund, his big record deal in the late 90s. Now, several people looked. I even once had to drive Roger Ames, then chairman of Polygram, to a bloody awful gig at the Fairfield Hall, Croydon. Croydon's a pretty awful place. And I remember coming out and Roger, who's Trinidadian, going, "Where are the melodies, Tony? Where are the melodies?" And I'm going, "There are no fucking melodies, Roger." And there are no melodies because he didn't have a Ma or even a Stephen Street to create the chord changes to let him write the melodies. So that was a dreadful thing, and Polygram passed. But a girl at Mercury in New York loved Morrissey so much. She fought with the company, she pushed everybody, she moaned, she cajoled, and finally got Mercury to sign Morrissey for a very, very large amount of money. He got all that, they recorded this big album, they had all these massive plans, cover of Rolling Stone, cover of Spin magazine, blah, 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 blah. And with 2 days to go, I'm not coming to do the press, fuck off, phone dead. This girl then, obviously her whole career's in jeopardy. She rings Stephen up to say, "Please, please, will you come?" I think it's after the second or third time she rings that Morrissey rings the boss of the record company and says, "If that bitch rings me one more time, you will never ever hear from me again." And this is a woman who's put her whole life on the line for Stephen. And that's not an isolated incident. So, but as I say, we shouldn't confuse the artist with the art, and his art is great. As a human being, he leaves things to be desired. He does, however, share my feelings for me. He despises me for many reasons, I think, but one reason was that I got kind of misquoted in the great Johnny Rogan biography, which severely upset him. I was sitting with Johnny Rogan talking about, like I am with you now, talking about the early days of the Smiths and what a remarkable, wonderful band they were. And for some strange reason, I got onto Proust's theory of homosexuality. I'm a big Marcel Proust fan. A bit off for a music person, but nevertheless, my favourite novelist. And Proust was obviously gay, and Proust had this specific theory about homosexuality, that it's the wrong word, because homo is Greek for same, and it implies same sex, and sex is never same. Sex is always plus and minus, positive and negative. And homosexuality should really be called, according to Proust, inverted sexuality, in the sense that a female homosexual, according to Proust, is a male psyche in a female body, and vice versa, a male homosexual, a gay man, is a female psyche in a male body. And because many of my friends are gay, and my father was gay, I've always found that a very competent explanation. So I had this conversation with Johnny Rogan. Of course, it appears in the book. 9 months later, Tony Wilson says Morrissey is a woman in a man's body. Stephen's reply was, I can't quite remember what. It was either I was a pig in a man's body or a man in a pig's body. And then the next line, which I think Q magazine or somebody, the face picked out in big type, was, the best thing anyone could do for Manchester music would be to shoot Tony Wilson. A lot of people have said that, but Morrissey, of course, says that and then makes it a Morrissey-esque by adding, and then stuff his body in the boot of a car, take it up to the Saddleworth Moors and bury it. It's the end bit that's fantastic, that makes it pure Morrissey. So I've upset Stephen in my turn. But I mean, Stephen used Vinny on Viva Hate, because Vinny gets on very well my guitar. Well, Vinny and I are friends again, but in those days I was Vinny's manager, and he used Vinny on Viva Hate with Stephen Street, and did lots of guitar work, and I think Vinny got paid 800 quid. And then they asked, can Vinny come back and do the next album? And I thought, great, but that was 3 weeks' work, and it contributed a lot, and I'm not asking for publishing or anything like that, but I should be asking for a bit more money. I'm not greedy, but on behalf of my poor boy, I'll ask for 1,500 quid. And the thing about Morrissey, as everyone will find out, is you do the deals with him. There's nobody else to talk to. You have to talk to Stephen about the money. So I ring up and I have to ask Stephen for 1,500 quid for Vinny, and Stephen says 800 quid, that's it. I mean, anyway, that's my experience of that.